the meeting. Hang on, let me get my agenda up. Okay, I'm going to take the roll call. Victoria,
Present.
Amy, Amy Lyford.
Here.
I'm sorry, you guys, you have to stay here because I have my spreadsheet up. I can't see you. Billy Malone is here.
Present.
Nick Arnzen here.
Here.
Dorothy Wong,
Here.
Hannah Petrie,
Here.
Petrie, sorry. Sandra Thomas, oh, never mind. Chris O'Malley,
Here.
Veronica Jones. Daryl Aranda is excused. Madeline is here. Alan Peck,
Here.
Reggie Wilkins. Oh, wait. Is that Dan? That's Dan, sorry. Dan Harlow,
Here.
Doug Cauliflower,
Here.
Diane Marcussen, Sylvia Vega.
Here.
Great, thanks so much. So we're just missing Daryl, and we still don't have anybody to help Chris. So we'll have to have a discussion about that. Just a minute. All right. Get rid of my spreadsheet. Okay, so we did roll call. So I set out the meeting agenda for June 1st. There were a couple of changes. My apologies for the typos on the dates for 6.1 and 6.2. 6.1, well, 6.1.1 and 6.2.1. The date should have been June 1st instead of May 31st. Are there any other changes to the agenda?
My agenda says June 1st.
On 6.3.1 it does. Unless you got one that Dorothy sent out corrected without
Okay, that's the one I got is the one.
telling. Yeah, okay. Okay, are there any other changes, corrections? Okay, I move that I really shouldn't be moving, but I move that we accept the agenda as amended with the 2 dates changed.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, thank you. We are going to skip over the approve the minutes from May 4th, and we'll have those next month. Please know for everybody that may be on the phone watching, or I'm sorry, on the meeting, watching the meeting, you can always watch the actual meeting online on YouTube. If you go in and look for Altadena Lamb Youth Meeting, you'll be able to actually see the whole thing, even though we don't have the minutes posted. Okay, so Chairman report, I really don't have anything except that I just wanted to tell everybody thank you so much to everybody who was asking questions ahead of time for the meeting. It would be great if we could do that a little earlier, but it's a way big step in the right direction for everybody to be having their questions asked ahead of time if you can. And I totally appreciate people reading the documentation. So we'll move forward with that, see if we can improve every month. But I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Okay, so we are going to move on to our items. The first item that we will review is Nick. Is this one yours, Nick, or the other one?
It's Billy's.
Okay, Billy's. Okay, Billy, go ahead. Sorry, Nick.
Okay. All right. This is for project number 2017-006-714, permit number RPPL 2017010069. And it's for the continued use as an assisted living facility, commonly known as Molino Manor, recently known as Molino Manor, I just want to let everyone know the applicant is here this evening, and I'd like to introduce them, Zeph and Glory. Forget the last name correct, Pascasio. So should you have any questions later, they are available for questions. I did mention that we were going to bring this up at the last, as part of the Census Tract report at the last LUC meeting. This is very similar to another project we had recently. I did speak to the planner to confirm that. If those who remember last year, we had a continuation of use for the Theosophical Society. When it was a continuation of use, I asked the planner in this particular case if it was a similar situation as why was it going to hearing and why was it coming in front of the Land Use Committee and ATC? Was it because the same situation as prior was because the permit had expired? Had it not expired, it most likely wouldn't have had to come before us. So that's that, and that's what the planner did confirm in this case. Now, as far as outreach is concerned, we did reach out. The property is located at 2544 El Molino. Across the street on El Molino is the sheriff and fire station. We reached out to both the sheriff and the fire station. The response from the sheriff's station was we did some research a while back on the facility when they submitted their CUP. Historically, they have not been a particular problem to us. A few calls here and there, but nothing too serious. We have not received a response from the fire department at this time. We flyed the business to the south on Mariposa and the north along El Molino, and also to the residents of the north as well. We didn't get any response to the flyers, neither negative or positive. So there was no response to the flyers. However, we were able to speak to several people during the walking the neighborhood. One of the residents directly to the north said that they actually almost smiled and said, no, the facility has been no issue whatsoever. I have no concerns with them. Three of the businesses to the south, I was able to speak to verbally, all saying they had no issue with the continued use of the facility as is. They did mention that some of the residents of the facility sometimes would hang out in the alleyway between the two, but because that's between the two facilities, there hasn't been a problem. So that's the feedback. We have no negative feedback, positive and neutral feedbacks from the ones we've spoken to, and nothing coming in from the firing, plus the one from the sheriff's station. So I did send out the information to the whole town council. Before I make a motion, does anybody have any further questions? I didn't receive any questions from the Land Use Committee, or any questions from to the applicant himself. No questions? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and make a motion on this. In the matter of the project number 2017-006714, permit number RPPL 2017-010069 for the continued use as an assisted living facility, Molino Manor, we recommend approval to the Altadena Town Council to send a letter of recommendation to the Los Angeles County for the continuation CUP use of the above assisted living facility at 2544 El Molino. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. I have not received any public comments on this matter. The motion has been seconded. Over to the chair for a vote.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I had one quick question. If I missed it, my apologies. Were there conditions on the original CUP?
I didn't get any conditions from the planner.
Okay, so I would just recommend that you
Without conditions.
in the letter, well, or just say that that you want to continue the conditions from the original,
Okay.
right? Which is what we did with the
Yeah.
AT&T one. Okay.
I agree with that. So in the site of there being any existing conditions, we add that to the letter to continue any existing conditions.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, great. Thanks, Billy.
Thank you.
Move on to Nick's, right?
Yep, you got it. Okay.
Diane,
Before you move
Before
on,
we-
before you move on, I just want to thank the applicant for coming this evening and being present and ready to answer questions. So thank you to Seth and Gloria.
Very much.
Oh,
thank you.
all.
Dan, was somebody saying something as well?
I
Okay.
was trying to say we should let them go since
Oh,
we have
yeah.
no questions.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for
Nick,
coming.
Billy,
Appreciate
thank
it.
And
Okay.
Billy, they know to come next in 2 weeks.
I did inform them, correct,
Okay.
Seth?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes. And I'll send you a link for that as well.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a
Take
good day.
care. Okay.
Okay. Nick,
Great. So this is project number PRJ 2020-001304. Minor conditional use permit number RPPL 2020-005646. They are seeking approval for setbacks of a decades-old previous owner's addition and attached garage. The planner informed us that the main house was built in 1960. The garage addition was added in the 1960s. It's an unknown date for the house addition, but the house addition basically filled in a little nook in the house, so it just completes the line. It's to the degree that no one knew it was an addition for decades, but they are aware now. Let me read real quick because this explains it well. The owner, am I able to share? Are you guys getting this? To whom it may concern, I'm going to read this because it pretty succinctly explains what's going on here. We purchased 2884 Marengo Avenue, Altadena, California. Hold on, I got to move it over because your beautiful faces are in the way. We purchased 2884 Marengo Avenue, Altadena, California, 91001, our home on August 18th, 2014. Following our purchase, we sought a permit for a trash enclosure. During that process, we were informed that certain work had been done at the property without permits. We brought suit against that seller and the seller's agents, which was resolved with a settlement agreement, enforceable as a judgment, requiring the seller undertake all necessary steps to obtain the necessary permits to bring the property into compliance. We hereby authorize the seller's contractor, Miles Construction Group, Inc., and its agent, Colton White, to sign the application for minor conditional use permit and any applicable building permits required to complete this process. Colton is with us. So thank you for joining us, Colton. He's listed as the applicant, so that's what brings him here. I think Ron is also here. He's the attorney for the previous owners, if I have that correct. I'm going to remind the group Colton's involvement is limited to this task of MCUP application. That's all he's doing. The primary issue is the rear setback. Let me bring that up for you. Are you all seeing these okay? Thumbs up from anybody?
Yep, we are.
Great, so here we go. Here's the property.
No, we're still seeing the letter of explanation.
Oh, okay, I think I have to stop sharing and go to the.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. So again, the issue is the rear setback. Where you see my mouse, the front property line. I'm going to scroll down to the back. And the issue at hand is that garage is 5 feet 10 inches from that back property line. And this addition, the date unknown, is 18 feet 3.5 inches from that property line. Again, that garage was in 1960s. It dates back pretty far. That is what it is. You can see there, nothing else is an issue that we're approaching today. The neighbors have all been approached in a wide radius. I don't need to show you that. I'll keep this up so you can look at it. I did speak to the neighbors closest in the back of the property line. It's been like that, he said, since he's known it to be. He has no issues with it. The neighbor in front basically said the same thing. We did flyer in a very generous radius, and we heard nothing back from anyone. The only 3 people I spoke to were the 2 I mentioned, a third that has no issue as well. I think that's all the info. Any questions before I make a motion? I don't have you all on screen, so you have to speak up if you do. All right.
I do have a question.
Yes, Alan.
Just a quick question. It seemed like it was saying that we are authorizing this contractor or developer to make the changes necessary to bring the building into conformance with code. Is that the case, or because I thought what we were doing is allowing it to remain the way it is.
That is what we're doing, Alan, the latter. He will be making no changes. He's strictly here to push this permit through. And we're doing retroactive. We're just doing okay for what's currently existing.
Okay.
And Nick, I'm happy, this is Colton White. I'm happy to clarify if needed, if you guys would like any additional insight into what the building department is looking for.
Yeah.
For Colton?
Yeah, so again, the building envelope won't change at all. What we're seeking is essentially a building permit for that addition. In order to achieve that, we need planning sign off, which brings us in front of you. Because setbacks have changed since the 1960s, that garage, when the lot was originally subdivided in 1960, was existing. And then the house was built in, I think, 62, and there were permits for that. At some point, that addition was added, and then setbacks over the years have changed. And so now we have the situation of a house that was built many years ago. Setbacks have changed in the meantime. And so we're essentially just seeking zoning approval and planning approval for the envelope as it currently exists, and then a building permit for that addition so that the entire house is permitted.
Yes.
Does that mean?
That answers all of my questions.
Chris?
I'm a little confused. Why is a lawyer here?
This was part of a settlement because the new owners that moved in were not aware of this.
Got it.
The settlement agreed that they needed to reconcile this. Billy?
I just want to point out that I did actually speak to the planner on this project, and that area that is part of the main structure that is required to be a retroactive minor CUP. If you actually look at the plans, it's actually further away from the side, the way it's a flag lot. First of all, it's not facing the street, it's a flag lot, but it's actually further away from the property, the way the angle goes, than the actual rest of the building. Because if you look at the property line, it goes down an angle. So it's actually closer to the property line for the building that's shown, but for the addition, it's actually further away from the property line than the actual property, even though it continues the architectural contour of the main building. The other thing I wanted to point out when I spoke to the planner is that they said, I'm not sure where this information comes from, so I want to be careful, but the planner did mention it, that at some point the construction of that addition matched the construction period of the main building. So they don't know when it was built. It could have even been built at the time the building was built on the main building. It just doesn't show on the permits.
Correct. The permit is for a smaller square footage than existing.
Any other questions? All right. In the matter of project number PRJ 2020-001304 and minor conditional use permit number RPPL 2020-005646, I make the motion to recommend to Altadena Town Council approval of setback of decades-old addition and attached garage without condition.
I'll second that.
Chair?
Yeah, can you just, I'm sorry, I get paranoid about this. I know you said that you're recommending to town council, but can you say that you're recommending approval?
Sure.
Okay.
I think I did, but I can say it again.
Said you recommended town council approval,
Oh, got it.
right? It's just, we want to make sure, we want to make sure it doesn't sound at all like we're physically approving anything.
You bet.
That's all,
You bet.
okay.
In the matter of project number PRJ 2020-001304 and minor conditional use permit number RPPL 2020-005646, I make the motion to recommend approval to Altadena Town Council of setback to decades-old addition and attached garage without condition.
Excellent, okay.
Second.
Thank you, Hannah.
Okay, Hannah, I have you as a second. Okay, all those in favor of the motion as read, say aye.
Aye.
Chris. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, Madeline, okay, good, perfect, sorry. Seeing things. Okay, perfect. Okay, we're done with that one then. Good, excellent. Thanks so much. And have them make sure that we know we're reviewing it in 2 weeks at the town council.
You got that info, right, Colton?
Yes, I do. And we'll be and plan on being present for that as well. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks very much. Okay. Okay, Dorothy. We have Reever Way next.
Sure. So welcome, everybody. We are revisiting 100 Reever Way. Reever Way project is project number PRJ 2020-001445. And then the permit number RPPL 202-0004626. And so we left that meeting with some work to do. So I would like to introduce, we have come back and I've shared with you guys the revised plan. So Greg, can you share your screen and provide the revised plan explanation?
Yes, we'll share the screen right now.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to briefly go through the proposed new construction of the two-story house.
Can you zoom in a little bit, please?
What you see are two site plans. The site plan to your right is the existing site plan showing the existing house and amenities such as the deck, pool, and other features. The site plan to your left is the proposed house, two-story house, showing with also a detached ADU towards the rear of the site. The project, we went back and listened to the last hearing and took into consideration some of the comments that were made in regards to our proposal for the height of the building and the massing of the building. So we want to switch to the next. So we constructed some massing just so we can get an understanding of what the limitations are in regards to the second variance request. So we looked at the types of roof structures that could inhabit that area within the 15 feet of the side yard. And it's pretty limiting in regards to the designs that are available based upon the height restrictions. As you can see, there's the 3 typical residential roof designs. One being a hip roof design at the upper right. Lower right, there's a gable construction, and then the on the left is a flat roof. So to comply with the ordinance as it's written, there would essentially be a very shallow roof structure that can be designed and constructed on this space. We feel that this is a little egregious for this particular site because of the width of the site. The site is 50 feet in width, and with 30 feet of restrictions, basically we're left with 30% or 60% of the lot is not accessible for a second story house with a normal roof design. So in looking at that split is very constrictive in regards to design flexibility for second story roof construction. You can see in the lower right-hand corner, you can see the diagonal restrictive area within the first 15 feet that is limited to 23 feet in height. So what we did do is we reduced What we did do is we changed the roof pitch, thereby lowering the structure of the house throughout the entire house. We changed the roof pitch, which eliminated one of the requests that we were previously asking for. It went from 9 and 12 to 8 and 12 to 6 and 12, something like that. So we've lowered it to again a roof pitch, which is normal. It's not exuberant in any way. It's basically a standard type of roof structure for this type of residential building. So we, from this, we composed a street view of the property, and it's showing the relationship between the proposed structure and the 2 neighboring houses abutting the property. No, the street view. We'll street view, then we'll go back to the solar. All right, so what we did was we worked with the survey that was prepared for the site. When owners purchased the property, they got a surveyor out, and the survey also took some elevations of the adjacent 2 homes. The site slopes from front to back. That's why you see it appears that the portion of the house is below grade is because the elevations change as the house goes towards the south. So you can see that the positioning of the 2 adjacent houses, the house on the west and then a house on the east, and their roof structure, which was established by the surveyor, the ridges of both houses. And in relationship to the two-story house, the proposed house that we're proposing, there's 11-foot 4-inch difference on the west side and 11-foot 7-inch difference on the east side. Taking into consideration the structure of the house as a two-story building, we feel that the proposed design is not overreaching in regards to its request. Again, the main reason for this request is that the lot of 50 feet is reduced by 30 feet because of the 215-foot side yard setback restrictions within 23 feet. So that really narrows down the design options that we can pursue. We're now going to, you can see here the landscaping from the two neighbors on the east side, where they have a bunch of greenery, plants and shrubs in the front of their property. And on the west side here, it's more less sparsely landscaped. You can also see on the east side, this is a driveway. It's like a 9 or 10-foot driveway. And there's a tree here. It's between the driveway and the residence on that side. So we're going to explain to you the shadowing casting. Did I talk about that?
Yeah, so we went back and studied the solar impacts within the vicinity, and so you can see that on the left side you will see the solar. You can see the shading that would happen during the summer solstice on the left there. At various times of the day, you have 4 p.m., 12 p.m., and 9 a.m. And so you can see the shadow that's being casted would be particularly mostly on 98 Reever Way and 110 Reever Way. So you could see that there, and we've highlighted it so that it's more visible. We got a few comments from some concerned neighbors, and the same for the winter solstice. You can see the most of the shadow that's being casted will be mostly in the middle of the street, and again towards 110 Reever Way and 98 Reever Way.
Yeah, we should point out that there's a large tree on the driveway side of 98 Reever Way, which is probably 30 feet tall.
So between the driveway, between 100 and 98 Reever Way, you'll see that there's this very large tree here in this section. So there's this really large tree. Not to mention that there's a few, it's very landscaped. And so there are a lot of large trees, including the one on 110 Reever Way that is technically not even on our lot, but it's being, most of the canopy is within the property. So yeah.
So we eliminated one variance request and reduced the building's massing to be more in compliance with the second variance, which is what we're still requesting. From our street study, you can see the relationship of the two abutting neighbors. And our proposed design is, as I mentioned before, is 11 feet higher than the two one-story structures immediately adjacent. This seems like a normal difference in height difference for a two-story building in comparison to a one-story structure. The need for, or the desire to build a two-story structure is that in order to obtain the program that the owners are requesting, for that to be performed in a one-story structure, it would pretty much take up most of the backyard, and they would probably more than likely lose the amenity of the existing swimming pool. So because of their family needs, a two-story structure is essentially the most logical way to go in regards to meeting the design program requirements. One of the features that they loved about the property is its large backyard. And in order to get the second story program onto the first floor, it would take up probably more than 2/3 of the remaining backyard that's left in this property. So we don't have, there's some design issues and practical issues in regards to why the building is going up and not remaining as a one-story structure. It's just that it would really change the character of not only this house, but also the neighborhood in different ways than the two-story building that's being proposed. So I'd like to open it up to questions.
I've got a couple questions actually. Can you please go back to, it was like 4 slides ago, the one that you had up for a really long time with the shadows and the profile of the
Shadow of
houses.
the main house.
Is that the one?
That's the one. All right, so I'm going to confess that I haven't actually driven this street, but I assume you're familiar with it. Do most of the houses on the street look more like the 2 houses flanking the house under discussion, or do most of them look like the house under discussion?
No, this will be the first 2-story house on the block, I believe.
Okay, okay, stories and style as well.
May I? Hi, I'm Andrea. I'm the owner.
Hi, Andrea.
So it's a kind of a tricky question because, to be honest, if that question was asked of any house on the block, the easy answer would be no, because there's really no continuity on that street. Like, there's one 2-story house on the corner, but mostly they're all 1-story houses, and they all kind of have their own eclectic thing.
Sure, you know, it's Altadena. I get it.
Yeah, there's tract homes. One might look like a Spanish house. One might look like a bungalow. Like,
sure, but like the modern 2-story thing.
This is actually a farmhouse. It's not.
Is it?
Yeah, it's not a modern house, but
okay,
it's a brand new structure. Most of the houses were built, in the 50s or.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, they look updated.
So. Okay, thank you very much.
Was that your only question, Chris, or did you have another one?
Oh, well, I would like to get around to the neighbors, but I feel like that's a question for the Census Tract representative, so I'll give you the floor.
Okay. So,
okay. And sorry, we can't see everybody, so go ahead and you'll have to.
Yeah, we'll stop the share.
Okay.
So I have a question. Who else, since we couldn't see anybody? So one, this is a lot better than the plan we saw previously. The reduced height is great. One of the things with that 15-foot setback was to prevent large massing of buildings. I mean, we had the same thing and we're going to hear the same thing again on the presentation only that's coming up a little bit later. But in that one, there is supposed to be a setback on the sides. Either on that one, it's a 45-degree angle that's required on the sides against other residential properties. And so, one of the concerns we had last time, which didn't seem to be changed or addressed, is the sides of this building are essentially straight up, and so they're very, they're massed very large on the side. if you were standing at the neighboring house looking at it versus having a slanted or a hipped roof on each end. And yes, I do understand that you can't have a hipped roof with a 2-story building without getting a variance. I do understand that, but there is a, you know, the point was to ensure that if buildings that were built that close, that they had accommodations for the neighbors, so they weren't staring at these big, tall walls. Because looking at that one diagram, even though you're 11 feet above the roof line, which if that house went 2 stories, you'd probably still be what, about 10 feet above, maybe 8 feet above the roof line of the house next to it. It's hard to tell because I don't know the scale of the drawing. So it doesn't seem like, you know, why the slant changed and it's not quite as high. You know, what is the variance exactly? Are we talking, you said, well, it's maybe 6 to 10. Is it 6 or is it 10 feet now on that end that we're looking at for the variance?
You got that, Greg?
Yeah.
Yes, 1 second.
Yeah. I have some number based on looking at the map and us talking, but.
Yeah, because I saw it, you know, I was looking at page 7 of that one, but I didn't really see a exact measurement that was drawn out.
It's 6'10" is the height. That's.
Yeah, so theoretically, if those were slanted on the side, it would probably be more like 3 or 4 feet instead of 6 feet.
Yeah, if we were a hip design, it would definitely decrease the massing. Yeah.
Yeah, because
it
would
still, yeah, you're right. It would still require a variance.
Yeah, and we're hearing a very similar issue with the one later today. So I mean, we do realize that on these tight lots, like a 50-foot, that the 15 can bleed in, that would still need a variance. It's just, you know, the point really was to prevent these tall homes going up next to ones that were not as tall. Mm-hmm. And that's why I said much improved, because it's obviously by changing the slope, it's a lot better. I still have some concerns over that. I mean, I really, and maybe that will segue, unless other people have questions, maybe that'll segue into the neighbor feedback. So.
Anyone else have questions? Billy? Can't hear you.
You're on mute.
There we go. Right. Yeah, again, it was similar to Daniel. I had just a couple of quick questions. Why, in a lot of roof lines, you know, the angle goes in 4 different directions. So what was, it is improved, but what's the reason in this case that the sides of the roof couldn't actually angle so that it wouldn't be such a vast building? The rake on the sides could be added so it wasn't such a vast building to look at from the neighbor. And 2, is that skylights on the that I see on the plan view, or is that solar panels or something else? I was just curious about that.
Sure. You're correct. I mean, the reason why we were staying with the gable roofing, because as Andreas mentioned, that the conceptual style of the house was more like farmhouse, ranch farmhouse, which is more typically gable roofs than hip roof. So that was the reason for that selection in the design. And yes, those are some skylights up on the top of the roof, and they're over the main staircase.
And then my other question was, and it was brought up last time, is the direct neighbors to the east and west, the first and second house on east to the west. I mean, I'm assuming we have feedback from the street, and I'm assuming Dot has the feedback.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
can.
very curious to know when we get to that stage, you know, what the directly, because the directly affected neighbors do have some weight in the conversation. So I'm interested to hear what feedback we have from the direct neighbors. That's
Any
it.
other questions? Any other questions? I have a question. Greg, can you just review again the shade impacts to the neighboring homes, east and west? Shadow impacts, especially the west?
Yeah, what's the question?
What the shade impacts are like. In looking at the drawing, it looked like it went entirely over the 110 Reever Way property in the shade during a. So is that true? Will that impact 110?
In the winter,
Yeah, during the winter.
During the winter, there will be shade in the morning. In the morning, sun still in the east. There will be shade over that property.
And what about the summer?
No, not in the summer. The summer, the shade falls like between the two houses in the side yards.
Okay, and then the side yard setback distance on the west side property, it looked like the home goes out.
Yeah, it varies. Is a portion of it is 5 feet, which is in compliance, and then it steps back to 8.
Right. How long is the connected home structures from the garage to the rear unit? I mean, you know, the last part of the main house. How long?
The length of the entire house?
Yeah, with the garage.
So yeah, the dimension from the garage to that's 20, what's that?
33.8 and
50,
20.8.
7.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Hold on. So that's 20, that's 40. 74 feet.
Okay. And then I did, okay. Does anyone have any question about the ADU? Or are we? Doug has a
I
question?
don't have a question about the ADU. I'm curious about, if I understood what you said right, Greg, that if this were a single story house, it sounded like you were inferring that that would also have some negative ramifications to the neighborhood, as does the 2-story house. And I'm curious what those might be, assuming the single-story house met the current setback requirements.
Well, there would be actually less because the house would be 1 story. There would be a greater portion of the building which is 5 feet away from the property line. So you could have a longer building, 120 feet or more, with a 5-yard side yard setback. I think that's less desirable than having a neighbor, your neighbor have an open yard where you get also the kind of shared benefits of their landscaping and the sun and so forth. So that's my point on that, is that it seems like most of these properties are developed where they maintain as much yard as they can. And this would be contrary to that development strategy.
Okay, okay, thank you. I was curious what your angle was, so that explains it.
Any other questions? So I have 2 left. Anyone have a question?
Sorry, Dorothy. Greg, just real quick, it looks like the detail on the rear roof is different than the front roof. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the two?
Talking about
these 2 buildings. Yeah, I mean it's slightly different.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm. That's fine.
Yeah.
So, thanks.
Talking about these 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have just a couple questions. So you had mentioned when it compares to the neighboring homes, like the frontage of the 2-story is 11 foot, I wrote down. Is that right? Like the impact height of, because the properties slope down, right? Your frontage view.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's yeah. As you can see, go back to the
You'll have to share your screen again.
It's just that the lot is sloping down towards the rear. So part of the garage is, as you can see here, part of the garage is actually below grade on the north and east. It's kind of tucked in there. Obviously, the front entry glass and door are above grade, but the property is constantly sloping down. So you kind of, it sort of minimizes the visual impact of the lot.
So the max height of the front 2-story structure is 27 feet, it seems, something like that, close to 27. But the impact to the neighbors is 11 feet above their house.
Well,
we have the elevation. So from the front, we are at 26 foot 8.5. And from the rear yard, from the lowest point elevation, we are at the maximum 30 feet building height. So you can see there that there's a constant change of elevation throughout the property.
So it's taller in the back than in the front.
Right, and then of that 26 feet at the front, approximately 6 foot 10 inches of it is the roof. So I'm just trying to figure out, is it when the neighbor at 110 looks, is she looking at how much height? I guess that's kind of the impact question. And then
Roof height? Oh, 6 foot 10, yeah.
Right, but she's also seeing a portion of the house. So the collective.
Take it from the second floor plate to the top of the ridge. And then the plate height from here. It's 10 and it's 17 feet.
Okay, and then if, maybe this is a Daniel question, like if the roof just becomes flat, then it would effectively meet would that meet?
Well, it's not really about the roof becoming, I mean, yes, they could make a flat roof and not require a variance, right? But I mean, that was indicated that that's not the design look they're going for, which is understandable. However, when the CSD was done, it was to, lessen the impact on the neighbors directly next by preventing large massing, or if they needed, a variance like this, that we would be able to give feedback like we're seeing here today, because the concern was, you could have these really tall buildings like what's being proposed directly next to the neighbor's property. Now they could hip the side and require less. Maybe it's 3 feet, maybe it's 4. I don't know. It would depend on the design. Then it sounds like right now it's about 6.5 feet on the side. And that's why I was asking about that back detail, because one looks a little higher than another. But again, it's 6 or 7 feet, right? So the question, this is why I'm really interested to hear what the neighbors' feedback is, because yeah.
So Dorothy, can you?
Yeah, I just want to address one last thing. There is a list of comparable-ish homes, so I don't know if we want to talk about that at all in the neighborhood. because that would be the last topic. Like there are some.
Were they revised from last time, I guess? Because last time they were showing us ones with hips on the sides, so.
Can you guys answer that?
It's the same exhibit that we previously showed.
Yeah, so those had hips on the side.
What does that mean? Hips on the side?
The roof was like this on the sides of the property.
There was one that had a flat roof, but.
Yeah.
Daniel, does that mean they're not comparable in your mind, or?
They're not comparable, because even though they're out of compliance and they're comparable for needing a variance like this one does, they're not the same type of design. So their variance was, oh, we slanted the side, but we're still 3 feet above the CSD. So we're asking for a 3-foot variance instead of 6.5-ish feet on this one. So I will be honest, I drove this street, I drove other streets. I did spot a few farmhouse style like this is. There have been some that have been built, but they either had a different roof design or they didn't have the same lot width. So their lots were a lot wider. So they had a much large, they didn't have to get a variance like this lot is requiring. So it's not that the farm style is out of sync. I mean, as we all know, Altadena is very eclectic. It's just we haven't had one this size on this size property where we've needed to grant a variance this large. So.
Okay, and then lastly, Andrea or Greg, do you guys want to say anything?
No, just to add a little bit to what Daniel said, I guess you're saying they're not comparable because they're not the same style, but I think our frame of thought is why we represented them is because, yes, they're not the same style, but they feel and look much more egregious as in like the way they're imposing themselves on the neighbors.
Yeah, it's just, so when we're looking at the variance, we're really talking about how many feet variance they need, right? And so because they had the slants on the side, that variance was only like a 3-foot variance instead of a 6.5. And so, and unfortunately we can't dictate look and design choices. So I do understand what you're saying about some of these properties. So okay, but again, it's really the neighbors' feedback. So I'm very curious to hear that.
Yeah,
so.
Dorothy, can we move on to that? And I mean, I think we kind of have an idea about the project. We can ask questions later if there are more, but
yes,
it's really important to understand. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So effectively, of course, we did the first pass at different people, and we kind of reported back the last time. So in the summary of visiting, getting feedback in between, we did have a Zoom meeting with, Andrea and everybody, the property owners, just to kind of get to this point. And so then from that, we were waiting for that sort of visual image that, we got a little bit late, but I think people have been feeling the same way. So of the total vote, if you would like how people felt on the street of Reever Way, we basically had 70 Reever Way is actually renters. That house is for sale. It's actually like there's 3 actual units. So that is going to be for sale. So if we count the renters, there were basically 7 people that were for the project or didn't have a problem with it moving forward. 10 people were against it. And then we were unable to, we flyered, but we did not get back feedback from 5 of the neighbors. Okay, so from that, we have letters and comments to read. So would you like to hear those? Okay, so Hannah?
Real-
Yes.
Chris,
Sorry.
Chris, I see you. Let's let
Let's
her read the comments and then you comment. Is that okay? All right, okay. You're next. Go ahead, Dorothy.
Okay,
So
I'm
Hannah-
gonna
yeah.
read the letters. Okay,
Oh, okay, Hannah, sorry.
here we go. Here we go. Dear members of the ATC, we would like to submit our thoughts on the proposed project at 100 Reever Way. We live 2 doors away at 114 Reever on the same side of the street. We bought this house on Reever almost 17 years ago. It was our first house and our first child was just 6 months old. Our 2 other kids were born in this house. On Reever Way, we found a wonderfully tight-knit community. The dead-end street meant that our kids could play on the street and there was no traffic other than our friends coming home. When I walk out of my front door every morning, I see the tips of the mountains peeking over the top of my neighbor's small house across the street. And in the winter, our family of 5 crowds at the front windows to see the snow-capped mountains. Reever Way is a dream of open space, beautiful views, and lovely neighbors. But now we are concerned about an incredibly large house being proposed just 1 house away from us. From what it looks like, this proposed house will be 3 times the size of the average house on Reever Way. I believe the average around 1,100 square feet. The owner of 100 Reever, Omari, came to our house before the first ATC meeting, getting signatures of support from the neighborhood. He told me they were requesting a variance to raise the maximum height from 30 to 32.5 feet. I signed a letter of support. He failed to mention that they were requesting other variances, especially the much larger variance that the 32.5 feet maximum height would extend all the way to the 5 feet setback. I feel like I was misled. If that letter of support is still in the record, please remove it and destroy it. After learning the full extent of the project, we do not support any of the variances that the owners are asking for. We understand that by right they can build a large house, even though it is completely out of character with the rest of the street. But any roof above the community standard of 23 feet within 15 feet of the property line is too much. The concerned neighbors who actually live on the street and the property owners of 100 Reever had a Zoom meeting on March 31st, 2021, and the neighbors voiced our concerns and reluctance of such a huge house that would be so flagrantly out of character with the rest of the neighborhood, with special attention paid to the roof height over 23 feet next to the property line. It seems like that conversation made no difference whatsoever, as the new plans make no change to the overall design, except to change the maximum height next to the property line from 32.5 feet to 30 feet, still 7 feet above the community standard. I can't imagine meeting with my future neighbors, hearing their feelings and concerns, and absolutely ignoring everything that was just said. Also, I would ask that both of the pitches of the roof be held at 23 feet from the ground where they are. Considering the slope that we live on, if this was one long pitch running the length of the property, I could understand the request for the variance, but this is double pitched, looking like 2 houses built together. I request that each pitch be held to the community standards. We would like the community standards enforced with none of the requested variances granted in an effort to keep our community aesthetic. The precedent of such a massive house on our small street is a herald of the end of open space and beautiful mountain views. The character of our small mountain town enclave will be forever harmed by this precedent of deviation from our community standards. I believe if the property owners actually lived on Reever Way, they would feel the community and aesthetic, and they'd understand the plight of the concerned neighbors. Please vote no on all the variances being requested. Please help preserve our little piece of Altadena. Many thanks for your time and continued commitment to Altadena, Michael and JJ Brake at 114 Reever Way. And this next one's from Grace Coleman Matlock. I object 100% to the proposed building of property at 100 Reever Way, Altadena. It negatively affects my property overall, especially with the view, decreasing sunlight to my property, which also affects vegetation and privacy issues. The guidelines should be followed for this project. I live at 3394 Glen Rose Avenue, which is at the corner of Reever Way and Glen Rose. I am writing as a member of the community to join my neighbors in protesting the architectural plans and the request for a variance of 7 feet on the new home planned at 100 Reever Way. To begin with, let me say that I respect everyone's right to try to build a house that accommodates one's family, and I respect that houses and neighborhoods change with time. However, I am attentive to the distress of my neighbors who feel that the new house will impinge on their privacy as well as the value of their homes by pressing up against property lines, blocking sunlight, and also crucially, by altering the fundamental feel of our neighborhood and community. I attended the last meeting and I see that the plans have been somewhat altered, but not by very much. To my mind, a requested variance of an extra 7 feet of height on the house Not to mention the bizarre placement of the front door of the house facing west instead of north like the rest of the houses on the south side of the street makes it seem as though this new neighbor of ours is much more interested in building a house that they desire than for contributing to the neighborhood and community. I note also that the request for a forward-facing drawing showing the view from the street was not met. Let me just say again, we are a community that cares for each other, that alerts each other to, as in this morning, a bear on the street or a break-in. We share plant clippings and fruit from our trees, and we take in each other's mail or packages. We used to have regular coffees before the pandemic. We made sure to map and plan for the pandemic together when it happened, tracking every house and family on the street, making sure that the elderly were accounted for and cared for. I would never ever dream of building or renovating my home in such a way as to discommode my neighbors. In fact, even last month, I talked to my neighbor about a tree that I had planted because I was worried the tree might shade over one of her plants. I realize that not everybody lives like that, but we do, and we treasure the good feeling of the community that we live in. I'm sorry that our new neighbors find themselves in the position of requesting this kind of variance to build their house, which appears to be up to 3 times the size of the average house size on our street. Perhaps they felt that they were getting a bargain buying land in Altadena, and that their right to dream house vision is one that entitles them to overshadow their neighbors' rights and sense of well-being. I very much hope that you'll stop them from setting a precedent and that we will move to a place where they can adjust their plans to fit into this amazing and beloved community. I think they were all ready to welcome such a family. Thank you, Kyla Tompkins. And this next one, I appreciate that the owners want to build their dream house, but I believe they really don't understand the climate of this street. Plus, I find it to be inconsiderate to the 2 adjacent neighbors who have clearly stated their opposition to this construction, even with the new proposal. Their reasons are solid. There's a code to follow in Altadena. It's there for a reason. My feeling is they must stay within code. I do not agree with the new proposal. Thank you, Liz Espinoza. And this one. I live next door to this proposed construction. I see this building as a manipulative to our neighborhood. Besides being 3 times larger than other houses on Reever Way, the front of the house is facing west rather than north, as all houses on the south side of the street. We requested a frontal view of the 3 properties and did not receive such a request as promised at our last meeting. I know mansions are being built, but they also have land on which to sit on, making them less intrusive to their neighbors. This building has none of these qualities. I am against this construction. 88 Reever Way, Jean McKay. And okay, next one. We are so fortunate to have a committee asking for input and listening to our concerns. For that, thank you. Affordable housing being leveled to create mansions is a pandemic that is gentrifying neighborhoods rapidly, and I think we're all shocked at the thought of it happening in our own backyard. That said, we feel everyone should be able to improve as they envisioned when they buy a property, and this house needs serious restructuring. The previous owners looked into it and decided it was not worth the investment. The fact that their plan would impact 3 to 5 homes, losing views and or privacy and being literally shadowed by its height has motivated us to send this email. The impact is big, and although it doesn't directly affect us, we stand by our neighbors who are extremely upset. On paper, a few feet and a compromised roof variance seem petty to argue, but the idea of our skyline changing on tiny Reever Way needs to be considered. This will be the tallest structure on the block. We fear it will set precedents, and there are several properties on the street that would follow their lead, such as the one immediately east of the most impacted neighbors. You've met a community that stands arm in arm to address this construction. We hope the architect is skilled enough to further compromise and design considerate options without ignoring the protests of long-established neighbors. We'd like our new neighbors to be happy as well, and we believe both are possible. It's from the Pintos at 58 Reever Way. We have just one more from 100 Reever Way. My name is Caesar Plaza, 65 Reever Way, Altadena, California. One of my concerns is a serious impact in the wildlife we have around us, like peacocks. We have between 22 to 28 owls, coyotes, possums, squirrels, birds, etc. that either live permanently. The majority and seasonal birds and other creatures. On top, the neighbors right next to the house will be greatly affected. Environmental impact is something that we need to take seriously in this time of climate change. I am not in agreement with any extensions, width and or height. Thank you very much, and that is all.
Madam Chair, can we have a motion, please?
Oh, hang on just a moment. Thanks very much. So let me just, Dorothy, so the letters or Hannah, the letters that were read, all of those were not in favor, correct? Did I miss one?
No, that's correct. They were all not in favor.
Okay.
Right, but we did receive earlier, so we from from the last go round that these residents still stayed with the project in a supportive way. So basically, 90 Reever Way and 103 Reever Way basically say, I am a neighbor or live within close proximity to 100 Reever Way. And these are also the residents across the street. And then next door, 90 Reever Way is next door where the ADU is located. So they're next door or directly across the street. And they're a neighbor within close proximity of 100 Reever Way. And they both say, I am in support of their variance request MCUP. And then they are aware of this site being particularly challenged in lot width and slope grade, which requires the approval of this variance. So that's from the neighbor on the east side. There's two properties. So it's the one on the back and then the one across the street.
Okay. So we had 2 in favor of, and Hannah, how many? I didn't count how many you read.
Well, and then there were people who said yes without giving us public comment.
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
I
so
guess
the total number, you want the total number?
No, what I'm trying to make clear to myself and everybody else, just where we kind of are with this, is that the neighbors who are closest to it, most of them are opposed to the project, correct? Okay, Hannah's shaking her head yes. Okay, thanks. Thanks. All right. So Dorothy, did you have were there, do you have a motion then for this?
Sure, and just a couple other comments if you want those really quickly, which is the character of the street. I'm not sure if that was mentioned there. So there were, and then keeping the standard as it is. And maybe those were all expressed, but these are notes from residents who didn't submit letters. And again, okay. 70 Reever Way was renters.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So where did I put the motion?
I think Billy's got a question.
Oh yeah, go Billy.
Billy, do you have I'm sorry, Billy, go ahead. Oh, and Nick, Chris, you had something else, didn't you? Or did you get it answered?
I just want a motion.
Oh, all right, stay calm. All right, Billy, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask one question. As you mentioned, the next door neighbor, I think to the east, was in favor, but I'm not sure which neighbor it was, but I was under the understanding that and I'm not sure it was that one or the other side, but you can probably clarify that, is the actual owners of the property happen to not be there because of being out of state due to COVID. And actually it's a family member living there and the family member agreed, but the actual owners of the property, which were the parents, didn't. Is that the property that you mentioned, 90?
I talked to both of the property owners that are in direct, the frontage of the street. So 88 and 90 are on the east side. The 90 address is in the back okay. property, and 88 is in the front. And 88 and 110 are both against it, the actual owner, Miss Matlock.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and let me just, there was a good point that was made here with, and just let me clarify. What we're being asked to look at is the variance that requires the MCUP, which is about the height, not the square footage of the whole building. So regional planning will determine if the square footage of the whole building is in keeping with their code of how much of the property can be covered by buildings and all of that. So I just want to make sure that I think most of the people that have commented about the height. So, but that's what we're looking at according to the CUP, the MCUP. Okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
So I guess my question to you in terms of if I vote with, if we motion a certain way, approve or deny,
right,
should we be motioning approval and then everyone votes on it? Or do we vote based on the majority of input we got? Because we didn't reach 5 people that could have turned a vote one way or the
Well,
other. Mhm.
right. So it's your census tract, and you're representing your census tract. And which is why I wanted to go over the numbers of who, how many were in favor or not. And we're remembering that we're not approving or denying it. We're recommending approval or denying to the town council.
Sure.
But I think you need to do, you're representing whatever you think is best for your census tract, and do that vote. And if it goes through, fine. And if it doesn't, then we move on to another motion.
Right. So then the actual vote was 10 were against, and then 5 residents plus then 2 renters were for, and then 5 did not respond to the times we did that. Right. So if I will, in speaking with a lot of the neighbors' concerns, I would then motion to deny the project as it relates to, well, here's one thing. The pitch of the roof, as it relates to the 7 feet, because there's a lot of learning from this project. So the pitch of the roof, even though it's 7 feet, it does slope back. So in terms of the people who are for the project, they're like, well, the property slopes back. It's not really
right.
30 feet
right.
to the
So
front,
we're
and
not,
the roof
right.
pitch.
Yeah, I'm with you, Dorothy. I understand. We're not making the argument anymore. You need to make a motion that basically says, in the matter of, and the number that you recommend to the Altadena Town Council that the project be recommended for approval or denial, whatever you're doing. Right? So
yeah. Well, I would have to vote on the majority and the neighbors who are going to be impacted. So I would vote to deny.
Okay.
The section, let me put those numbers again, sorry.
Right, so do you want me to share the?
Yeah, Hannah was gonna help me read it, but.
Okay, Hannah, do you have a motion?
We don't have one written exactly. We can do our best with it though.
I think it's kind of simple, but
yeah.
I just.
Right, so what you can do is you can say that, in the matter of your CUP at 100 Reever Way, that the, based on the majority of the.
Madam Chair, if I may, just for a minute, just as the guy taking the minutes, if they could have something written that they can copy.
I get it. Yeah, we're not there.
Sorry. I have it here. I just need someone to say the project number and the permit number.
Okay, Chris. Hannah has it.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I got it. Okay. All right. So for project 100 Reever Way, PR J2020001445-5 RPB L20200004626. We recommend to the council that we deny the variances requested.
That you recommend denial.
We recommend denial.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a second for that? Okay, Nick is second. Okay, we're going to take a vote. Is there any discussion from after that motion?
Sorry, just to clarify, we recommend that the Altadena Town Council that we recommend denial to the variances as requested.
Correct.
That's our motion.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion as read, say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Daniel,
Aye.
you're opposed?
I think they should come back, but that's the motion that's on the table.
That's right. And
so
they have the right to come back.
Yeah.
They have the right to come back. Okay, so are you voting no, Daniel?
I'm voting no.
You're allowed. Okay, you're voting no. So we have 1 no, and any abstentions? Okay, so we're going to recommend to the Altadena Town Council that they recommend to Regional Planning Commission that the project be denied. Now, to the homeowners, or as Daniel said, you have the right to go back to regional planning and see what else you can do, either to be in compliance or to have there be less of a variance or whatever. We will in 2 weeks address this unless at the town council meeting, unless we hear that the applicant does not want to have us address that at that meeting.
May I ask a question, just so I can kind of understand, because it's a little bit, this is our first home, and it's all a little confusing, but Dorothy mentioned we had a meeting with our neighbors, and we were trying to get understanding from them, but they came on board without ever like meeting us or hearing me utter a single word. They came in saying that we were like not willing to work with them. Like it was very like they were on defense and attack. And so it just made me feel like at this point, it wouldn't matter how much we bend and how much we tried. They've kind of planted their feet in cement and said they're not like willing to be supportive. So I'd love to come back. However, I just like I'm essentially feeling like I'm trying to convince neighbors that have already decided that they're not.
Well, I think what we've done is we've reviewed your plan as presented tonight. The neighbors, I believe, have reviewed that. If they have not, then you can go back and have them review if there's a new plan, or if there's even yet another new plan that you come up with, you can go back to them and talk to them. All we have and all we do is take the feedback of the neighbors and share that with regional planning. And I think it's important once again to note that we're not making the decision. Regional planning is making the decision. So they will take what feedback we've gotten from the neighbors and use that to make their final decision. If you feel like there's a way for you to, Dorothy can help you get in touch with the neighbors again, if that's what you would like her to do, and to help facilitate, if there's a change that they're not aware of or something, then that's fine too. But we need to, tonight, we've taken our vote and we're going to recommend to the town council. And if you would like that not to go to the town council for a final review, we're happy to hold off on that. If you want to work some more with the neighbors or with regional planning.
Okay. I think we're past the point of neighbors. I feel like as egregious as they were being, we need to just go to regional. The egregious word has been used a whole bunch tonight. And so I think that they have the right to give feedback to the community, and if you feel that honestly if not attacks on our character and our stance when we haven't uttered a word. So
okay, well, if you feel that Dorothy can help bridge that gap a little with the neighbors, then I'm sure she's willing to help try to do that. She's shaking her head. So maybe what you guys want to do is just take an offline discussion about kind of where you are and what might be able to happen to, you like I said, the square footage of the property is not, or of the building is not something that we're reviewing. But it's the height variance. So we're gonna go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, I just want to be super clear with you. It's really the height variance of those sides that we're looking at.
Right.
It's not the square footage. I know they have, or even the look of the farm style house, which I know they had comments on. It's purely that side, and so.
The 6, Daniel. So like that sounds a lot better, but would that actually help? Because then they would say, well, it's still 3.
But and Diana and other members can vouch, is there are times where we realize that yes, maybe the neighbor, that there has to be a compromise, and sometimes we realize that doesn't. I was gonna say,
Sure, I understand.
I think it can be improved, but it would still need a variance. And that's why I voted how I voted. So
Right,
yeah.
So you have the opportunity to go back to regional planning and see if there's a way to sort of come to some kind of a compromise and then present that to the neighbors, or you can just move forward the way we have, and you let us know, let Dorothy know.
Yeah, and I'm certainly happy to talk more outside this meeting with Dorothy and you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That would be helpful, because I don't know, like, I feel like
Yeah.
Yeah. But we do have another complex project. So
it is. It is. And we appreciate your time. Okay, so thanks very much. And I guess, Dorothy, let us know how you guys do. We're going to go on to this presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, and so Veronica, are you doing that?
Yes, because Carol's not here, so
okay,
I'm doing it. Okay, this is a project that's at 2214 North Windsor Avenue, Altadena. It's right next to Gordy's, if everybody knows where Gordy's is. So it's that property that's on Windsor, but it butts up against Gordy's parking lot right there, and it goes deep back. It's a big property. And this project has been around for probably about 3 years. I think there was one before this. It's owned by a doctor, and he has the architects here trying to find a plan that'll work for that property and bring in more housing and just help that corner. So I have Charles Kluger, is that right?
Kluger.
Okay. And okay, I'm going to mess this one up too. Juan Pablo. What's your last name? Arndt?
You're muted, JP.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My last name is Oñate, with like España.
Oh, okay. I know. Okay, so that's his last name. So they're going to do a presentation, and it's going to be short, and it's presentation only. They're getting this ready, and they've gone through to the county just to see what they would need. And the county recommended that they come to us at now. So, okay, you guys have the floor. They're going to share their screen.
All right, JP, can you share? Can you bring it up?
Yeah, I'm sharing it now. Let me know if you can see it.
We can.
Okay.
Okay,
Chuck?
good. Yeah, I'm going to start. My name's Chuck Kluger, and you met JP. And as Veronica said, this was a previous different type of design. A doctor family owns this particular lot, and he originally bought it for his corporate world headquarters. And be it as it may, we had decided that the best and highest use is to put housing on the site, particularly some affordable housing. So I'll go through the project briefly. I think I've got like 18 images. I'll try to go through some of these fast and point out the most important thing. This view, by the way, is from Windsor Avenue, looking northeast. Gordy's is on the right, single family residence is on the left. And I've got some other images that you'll see in the future that'll explain this. There's zoning is in CM, and there's a retail component on the first floor that you could see. So primarily, this is a 3-story building. As you can see, the corner near Windsor and Woodbury, the hills are to the north of us. We are allowed a 1.0 FAR, and we're just slightly underneath this. Our lot coverage is 60% that's allowed. We're underneath that. And our plan is to have 54 units, of which 5 of them would be affordable housing. We are planning on having a 3-story building with the first floor being parking and retail, and the second and third floor being the housing. We are asking for 3 stories. 2 are allowed per ACP and 1 additional for the affordable housing incentive. Our occupancy is primarily B on the first floor for the retail and mercantile. And then we also have residential and parking, which would be on the S2. Our height that's allowed is 35 feet. We are allowed a 10-foot increase in height for the affordable housing incentives. So our total height of the building would be 45 feet. Our front yard setback, as you'll see on some of the next slides, is 30 feet. Our sides are 15 and our rear is 20. And in some cases, we will have exceeded that. Let's go to the next slide. This is our site plan. You can see Gordy's to the south. You can basically see this hatched line that's diagonal, which is our fire lane, which is, I believe, 28 feet. And then you can see our 15-foot setback on the north where the residential, single-family residential homes are. There are 4 of them that abut our property. One of them just a sliver, and then the other 2 primarily completely abut our property. And the backyard setback is 20 feet and then 30 feet at the front. And I've got an image that'll show you that a little bit clearer. This site plan is representing basically the first floor in the site, which is parking and some retail in the front. This is a 3D perspective of Gordy's to the right, the single family residential units to the left. You'll see the landscaped areas in the front, which representing the 30-foot setback in the front. Go to the next slide, that's the bird's eye. So here's basically the ground floor. If you look at Windsor Avenue is on the left, the far left, and you'll see some of that 30-foot setback, which is involved landscaping and trees and a little park-like setting in the front. And then the retail building, the retail component starts right at that 30-foot line. And it's about 2,100 square feet of retail. And then we have a temporary leasing office that we would have. These would be apartments designed as apartments, full service apartments with washer dryers and such. Our retail component, we don't know who that would be right now, but considering we don't have a fitness center, it may end up being a fitness center, a community room, or if we get somebody that wants to rent it for sandwich shop or cleaners or whatnot, as long as it's within code, we would find it acceptable. You can see the setbacks on the north side, the 15-foot setback. We also have a 20-foot setback on the back, but on the ground floor, this image is depicting the parking. The dashed line is actually the building line above, which is representative of the setback. The 2 red areas are underground transformers. We have power lines that are on the south property line, and those are remaining. There's a little easement there, and so I have to have a setback to those power lines, so we decided to make that our fire lane. Next slide. This is our parking calculation. So basically, we have provided 76 parking spaces and 72 are required. So we have 4 extra parking spaces, and then we have 35 bicycle parking spaces that are required. This is our second floor, which starts the residential component, primarily consisting of 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, some studios. There's a central component that JP will circle. That's kind of our interior courtyard area. That'll be heavily landscaped, and that'll be the outdoor area that'll open all the way up to the roof. This is our 3rd floor, and as you can see on the 3rd floor, you've got the void in the center, and the units are stacked as you go up, and this is our final floor, consisting again of a mixture of 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and you'll see some small studios. Next slide. This is our studio. This is our makeup of our units. We have some studios that are about 569, 1 bedrooms are 759, and then a 2 bedroom of a little bit over 1,000 square feet. In surveying the area, it seems like people, particularly in that area, as well as other areas of the city, are looking for more affordable apartments that are smaller, and thus the price goes down. And we're able to make those 2 bedrooms and the 1 bedroom still work a pretty efficient layout. And they have balconies too. And some of the units we're taking advantage of the views, because the views are, as you guys know, they're spectacular looking to the north. This is our roof plan. The roof air conditioning units are up on the roof. Those will be completely screened. You won't see any of the units, even though we're up high. We still have screening, and none of the units will poke past the roof line. Next, you're going to see the west elevation and the east elevation. So the west elevation is what you would see from Windsor. And you can see that we've got some generous 1st floor space where the retail would occur. So basically, first floor again is just retail, glass, and parking in the back. The second and third floor is all the residential component. And you can see to the left, we have that 15-foot setback. And then the residential units are, I believe, 2 times that 15. So they're about 30 feet away from that property line. And then you'll see on the east elevation, which is basically the east elevation as it exists today, there's some industrial buildings, tilt-up buildings in the back. There's a requirement for a wall, and that's what you're seeing, that masonry wall looking towards the east. These are our 2 sections. The section you can see the parking and the height that's underneath. We wanted to make that parking generous so that we wouldn't feel like a creepy place. We didn't want any subterranean parking. You can see the retail on the upper north elevation on the right hand, and you can see basically the units are elevated and they take advantage of the great views, and there's balconies around the perimeter. These are sections through the buildings showing the relationship to the property line and to the building facade. The top unit, section 1, is cut right through east to west. Through the Windsor would be on the left side. You can see the 30-foot kind of parkway that you've got on the left side of that section number 1. You can see the setback, a 20-foot setback in the back on the east side, and the open space for the parking underneath it. And same thing for the side sections. This is our perspective, cutting the building in half and giving you kind of a perspective to give you an idea. Windsor, again, is on the left-hand side. You're seeing a lot of glass where the retail is, and the residential units up above on floors 2 and 3. You're seeing that open space in the middle. That would be our garden space open to the sky. And then, of course, we have the required stairs and an elevator. This is our solar study. We wanted to make sure that we took a look at the adjacencies and the single family residence. So you can see the 4 lots that are on the north and the impact of our building and the shadow lines. And in the winter, those backyards would be in shadow in some cases for a couple months. And again, today is we want to get feedback. So if the feedback is, you know, we need to do things to the building for articulation, we're open to it. This is not our final design. It's a presentation, as Veronica said, to get some feedback. These are perspective views. We wanted to do something contemporary, something a little lively. I don't know if these will be the final colors. We had our one-stop meeting with the county while all the departments were there. Some feedback said, well, maybe the colors are too bright, maybe they're not too bright. We kind of like them. I'd like to hear what the committee has to say about them, as well as the adjoining residents if they're here or the neighborhood. And these are just some more perspectives. As you can see, the northwest perspective, the residence would be to the left of that. You can see the green parkway in the front of the building, the 30-foot area that would have hardscape benches, trees, shrubbery. And then the southeast, you know, basically from Gordy's to the industrial building, the required block wall that's surrounding it. There's also some great shrubs and hedges that exist today. We're going to try to keep them to buffer the area. They've got to be at least 20 feet tall, and the owner had planted those years ago, and we'd like to preserve those if possible. Some interior designs for the courtyard. On the right, you're seeing a little bit of glimpse of that open space courtyard. We're looking at some soft materials for the courtyard, maybe some wood to soften it up. And same thing, we're considering maybe some on the rails to soften the space up. We like the idea, like on the breezeway, if you look at that perspective on the left, there is a wall there separating the units from the planting. We're considering that as maybe some open free-form space that would allow light to come through. So we're still, as we said, we're still working on the design, but we certainly would like your feedback tonight. And then back to the overall design. As you're seeing, we have an idea for a sign. It says Windsor MXD. I understand, I know sign programs, this is not part of the project. There's a separate permit for that, but we want some sort of sign identity. Who knows, it may end up just saying Windsor and the address in the front. But we wanted some articulation, something to make it to make it stand out. You know, there's nothing on that corner. There's Gordy's, as Veronica said, to the right, and we feel that it'll add a little bit of contemporary design and forefront design to the Altadena area. And you can see the white image to the left. That is the replication of the single-family residential units that are to the left. And with that, open it up to any comments or questions or concerns.
Should I stop sharing?
Yes.
Please.
And no, maybe bring it up in case they have questions or want to go to a slide.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see if there are comments and then.
Daniel's got his hand up.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Dan.
I already looked at this one before. So one of the things in our CSD is, I mentioned it in the last one, we have a plane requirement, a 45-degree angle. Well, first we have a 5-foot setback requirement when commercial property abuts residential, in which case this does abut residential. At least from your drawings, it did not look like there was a 5-foot setback on the side that abuts residential.
It's
it's the overall setback is 15 feet, and there is from the parking itself there is 8 feet 5. Part of it is accessible, you know, an accessible path. So we were not sure if everything had to be landscaped.
So it is extremely clear in our CSD, which I highly suggest you look at, that it must be a 5-foot landscaped buffer from residential to commercial.
Okay.
Okay. There's no room for interpretation. It is clear.
Okay.
Yeah. And when we did the CSDs, the number one thing for residents was buffers between commercial and residential.
You guys hear Daniel?
areas.
He's still talking. I can't hear him.
Yeah, we
So,
can hear him.
We're gonna.
Yeah.
Can?
We can hear him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we can accommodate that.
Yeah, so that must be accommodated in this design. The second, which was also very important, was an encroachment plane. A 45-degree encroachment plane shall be required for new construction. The encroachment plane shall extend from a 6-foot height at the edge of the required landscaped buffer above the adjacent side yard or rear setback when adjacent to a residential lot. I see no encroachment of 45-degree plane on this building. It is square to the sides.
And you're right. The only thing that I could say is the commercial part of the building does work with that requirement. The residential part, because remember, this is not just commercial, this is mixed use.
Yeah, but this is for all commercial zones. So this is for a CM zone, right? This property is CM zoned.
Right. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So, and because we did take that, we wanted to encourage mixed use, just like what you're proposing here. But on the flip side, as you pointed out, there will be massive shading of these residential lots. And with a 45-degree plane, that should potentially be reduced, because that's why the encroachment plane was there. In addition, having a 3-story building behind, especially if you look at the lots on that side, very, just like we were talking about on the last project, you have this large mass next to these 1-story things. So, and that's why I sent a question over. There are multiple things in your plan that does not comply with our CSDs, to the point where you're going to need a CUP for your plan. And you're going to need to go through and detail all those items, because we're talking buffers, landscapes, architectural details. Multiple items do not meet our CSD. And so, I in theory, I like the project. We need more housing here. We need more mixed use housing here. We need more parking for those mixed use. But it's kind of like you guys designed this and didn't even look at our CSD. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, that's nice. So,
Yeah, can we do you need a link to that, or the
Just-
link to it?
I sent it to Juan. I sent the link to.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay, we will look at those closely and reconfigure the massing.
Yeah.
Just to mention, this was not the first time we have kind of introduced the project. We did turn in a massing component before, and it seemed to be okay. And we were trying to follow the Altadena community plan, the 1980s version.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we will look at it.
I forget how long ago you were here in front of us, but the CSD went into effect, what, like 3 years ago, Daniel? Something like that.
Yeah.
And so it may have come in behind you, right? The CSD may have come in behind you. The other thing I wanted to ask, you were mentioning low income housing, and we've been hearing that somehow low income housing allows you to bypass the CSD. Is that what you guys have been thinking about?
So the low income housing gives you a set of incentives. There's a list of them, and then there's some proposed ones. And you have to. We're talking to Becky Cho with regional planning, and she pretty much is the one who tells us this will pass, this will not pass, and we're been getting a lot of feedback from her. So we initially proposed 3 units that went up to 5. She had no issue with the height, because I did receive a comment today about the height, and the increase in height was not an issue.
Well, she may also not be looking at our CSD, so that it's just see if you can coordinate back with her about that as well.
Yeah, and I did send those comments back to her, and we will be having a conversation about your concerns prior to moving forward.
Okay. And so I see Sylvia and Krista, do you have your hand up as well? Okay, so Sylvia, I'll let Sylvia go first.
So I saw that you mentioned 5 affordable housing units out of 54. What can be done to increase that number?
1 more story and more density, which I don't think you guys would be open to that.
Yeah, our CSD does not allow that.
Right.
But why couldn't you take from the 54?
Well, this is a give and take. Like we want to make it fair also for the owner. So remember, this is a huge investment for him to do. So what we can do is we can give a percentage of the units relative to what the LA County has. If the LA County wanted to have more units, we would be happy if we got more incentives. So like making the building bigger allows the owner to give more affordable housing while still being, because you're giving away these affordable houses, right? So he needs to compensate in other ways. Economics need to make sense at the end of the day. And I think this is as big as the project can get. In fact, we're getting throwback from, say, Daniel, to make the building slightly more compacted, which could suffer with a few more housing. We might lose 1 or 2 or 4 units on doing this cutback on the north side.
Not if you put the parking underground.
Yeah, we're not putting the parking underground. We may end up with some more affordable housing, Sylvia, once we go through the cutback and look at the size of the unit. So we'll certainly take a look at that.
Well, and again, the recommendation is 45 degrees, just like on the last project. It's not that we won't give an exception for that, but to have 0 is unlikely at the current proposed, especially with the shading issues of that neighbor. So, it right now it's a large box, basically. The other thing I didn't catch, and I'm sorry I had to step out, what was the proposed material about this building? Was it CMUs?
We had a decorative CMU in a small component, and we have glass and wood and plaster.
Okay, so the other thing, no CMUs.
Not even if they're decorative?
Even decorated colored CMU?
No CMU's walls will be constructed in such a way they are visible to pedestrians.
Okay, we'll reconsider another veneer.
Yeah.
That's not an issue. It's not a big
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
Most of the CMU walls that you see on the property line, those are already there.
Yeah, those
we're
are those
not
are the
proposing. Yes.
yeah, obviously.
So there's no CMU, but where you require CMU walls on the property line.
I'm not sure where they picked that up, but you know,
Well,
we
just-
require landscape buffers.
Yeah, you can just put that on your list of things to check out with Becky Cho.
That's fine. The CMU that we're using is a split face CMU that we have used in other projects that has been very popular.
This isn't the wall. This is the building that's CMU. I just want to make sure we're talking about.
I
the right
understand.
thing.
Yeah, you're
Okay,
talking about the residential, not the residential, the commercial portion. Yeah, you know, that was going back to like Raphael's idea of the piano novella being highlighted on the top and then being more rustic on the bottom. But we can propose something else that is rustic and it's a different veneer. That wouldn't.
Okay,
that wouldn't be a problem.
I'm gonna, Chris, I'm gonna let you ask a question, and then I think we want to try
Thanks. This isn't for me. This is just for all the people watching at home that don't know. What's a CMU?
I'm asking for a friend.
It's a block. It's basically an 8-inch by 16-inch block that you can
Like
get
a cinder block?
colors. In some cases it can be, but that's not what we were proposing. They have some amazing blocks that have won awards for colors and textures and that are just beautiful, but I understand not in Altadena.
Yeah, so example, think of the Aldi building. That's a CMU building for everyone here.
Right.
In Altadena?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay.
It was built before the new CSD went in place. That was specifically put in because every building that uses CMU ends up being ugly. And because they say, oh, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. No. And that was like multiple feedback from the residents and whatnot. So please choose something else. Thank you.
We got you loud and
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you guys
no
so
worries.
much. And you know, keep in touch with Becky Cho and Veronica, and you know, we'll hope to see you back sometime soon.
Yeah, I mean, our point is today to get the feedback that we did get and then go on to the next and next. So obviously we're going to be back 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah, perfect. We look forward to hearing how you progress.
Are you guys okay with the color coordination by any chance? I don't want to start any fires, but
So we actually do have colors in our CSD about neon and bright colors. So that's why I said.
We
you guys should
usually,
visit
we
that.
usually
would you
like to
consider
have,
these to be neon colors, Daniel? I mean, that's a little far-fetched.
I would just look at the CSD and then go from that.
Okay.
I wouldn't. I was gonna say I wouldn't be able to tell from the rendering, actually, frankly. So
yeah, I think that when the Aldi building went in, which remember we aren't thrilled with, that we were talking to them about, and I guess it depends on where it is and what the view is, but kind of what blends into the naturescape, kind of. Although Veronica will know on that side of town what folks are looking for. So did I see you shaking your head no, Veronica, when you said about the colors?
That's my personal preference. That's not what other people around there might want. They might like it. It's just everything around there is kind of bland. I mean, there's businesses, but you don't know that they're businesses because they kind of blend in. But you know, this is new, so we will
I think
to the community and find what they want.
Right. Yeah. I think in the past we've asked some of these businesses that are building bigger buildings to, you know, sort of blend in with the landscape, the view of the mountains, the, you know, all of that. But you guys can look at the CSD colors as well. All right. Thank you
and they
so
hit
much.
things. Oh, just to be clear, you guys did hit things that were in our CSD in terms of pedestrian access and whatnot.
Right.
So
You're on the right track.
Okay. That's good.
Thanks very much for your time. And we'll
Thank you
see
so
back
much for
soon.
the opportunity, and I hope everyone stays safe.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much. We will. All right, so we are going to, I did not get, by the way, any general public comment. I don't know if anybody else did. No, okay. And
Did Veronica get some comments? I thought you, no,
Nothing,
okay.
nothing, nothing.
No, we will be going through that in the next step, I think.
Yeah, and Veronica can certainly help you.
We'll have a meeting with the community and we'll meet with the neighborhood watch groups in the area. There's one really big one, so we'll do that. Juan and I will do that.
Yeah, she'll help you coordinate with all of that. Okay, and I did not get anybody telling me about a census tract report, including at the beginning of the meeting. So I'm gonna, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Sylvia's gonna second that. And thank you guys very much. I'm glad we didn't go forever until 10 o'clock tonight. And I appreciate everybody doing your work ahead. It makes a huge difference. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right.
Everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.